Okay, folks, now we've done our vital scan. We're going to do now the part where we're going to get a little bit more of a dive down deep into the particulars of the client test. So when we go to comprehensive, again, John Doe is our client. I'm the practitioner. So when we do this, here's where we're going to need to make some choices. We had seen in the early set of things that there are different areas of the body that were having some issues. So for example, when we went to the scan report that we did before from the vital scan, adrenals were slightly indicated because norepinephrine was one of those things that were off. Blood cells would be indicated because, for example, in that one, our total iron binding capacity was low. Digestive, I do for everyone. No matter who you're working with, they need a digestive review. Human cells, sometimes interesting for everyone as well. That just seems like something that everybody could use. There was some indicators there of a pancreatic problem in terms of the A1C was a little on the high side. Respiratory system, in the sense that we had some issues with smoke and paint and things like this. We probably also want to go up here and go along. Each time we come up to something where it's logical to take a look at it based on what we saw before, we want to double click on it and it moves it from this list over here into this list, okay? I usually also do thyroid for everybody, and there was an indication for thyroid anyway, but I just always do that for every person just because it seems like thyroid is a big problem. Now, this is also the point at which you want to ask that person, well, do you have anything else going on that we might want to pay attention to? Do you have any particular aches and pains, any musculoskeletal problems, anything where you might want to take a look at a particular set of things? We had seen eye strain. So let's take a look at the eyes and see how those are doing. I know that this patient happens to have some issues in the connective tissue of his spine and of his hips. Okay, we can take a look at those. We have been working in the office with some people with some chromosomal, some genetic problems. You can click in some chromosomes here and that becomes rather interesting. So any of these things that are physical structural parts, lymphatic system is a really good one to take a look at. Any muscles that are going on. Nerves are also really good to take a look at for people with neurological issues, brain issues, some people with maybe some brain chemistry issues. And in that case, you'd want to go brain, sagittal, cerebrovascular, basal ganglia as well. But let's do these for now and see how they do. So once you've selected your set of, here's what I want to take a look at: connective tissue, couple in spine and hips, eyes, adrenals, blood cells, digestive, human cells, lungs, pancreas again, respiratory system, and thyroid. That's plenty to work with for now. We now hit scan. Again, client's going to have the headphones on. They're going to hear what I call the wub wub sound, and it's just going to scan through. Now what you can see is this is dividing this out to very specific anatomical parts. It builds it one part at a time, and then it's going to give us an analysis of how that part is doing. You see the numbers that are applied to there. Now it's going to flash by real quickly. We don't have to pay attention to this first one. We're going to let it scan through all of these. Now notice here too, these are categorized in groupings by colored text. Those colors have nothing to do with anything. They just needed some colors to divide it out section by section. As we click them over here, those were all in black text, no matter what list they came from. As each of these scans, we're going to get a red, blue, or green text to this list. Any one of these that comes up as red means that there's a score that's off to an extreme. So let me describe the scoring system to you to show how that goes. This scale is from 1 to 9. 5 in the middle of that would be the optimum score. 4 or 6 are well within range to the point we call 4 or 6 are no problems there. From 3 down to 1, 1 being the worst score, would be things that are degenerative, things that are underfunctional, things that need a lot of help in support or stimulation. From 7 to 9, 9 being the worst score, would be things that are inflamed, infected, toxic, need to be calmed down. So as we go through these, we get these differentials of scores proceeding from the middle outwards, and the farther outwards they go from 5, the worse the score is. We're going to take a look at these and say, well, we took guesses as to systems. we just kind of threw them in there to say, well, how is that system doing? We're taking a guess that that might be involved. And we're going to get answers based on these scores. Well, yeah, there's some that are yes, and some, some are going to show up red, and some are going to show up green, some are going to show up blue. We're only going to focus our attention, though, those that end up being red. The reason why is because basically you won't have time to do more than that. You only want to pay attention to those that are red, because otherwise you're going to spend literally hours and hours and hours going after all of these. And again, some of these like digestive and human cell, I throw in there for everybody. I often do blood cells for everybody, simply because there's so many things that could go wrong in the micro level that we want to be aware of the idea that we need to take a look at that person from the macro as well as the micro view. We're probably going to triage this or focus our attention on the things that are the worst, however that happens to come up. Now, for those with medical knowledge, you can maybe take a look at some of those that come up green or come up blue. Blue are those that it's not extreme scores, but there's still a slight imbalance. And you can start to read over some of the anatomical or diagrammed parts and infer things based on what you know about the client from other resources and other examinations. But for the simple way of using this, we simply are going to focus all of our attention on those that are red only. So we're going to let this just kind of go through this. The previous view of the pancreas was actually a better view of the gallbladder. The gallbladder is not well done in the livers, the liver thing, but we see the gallbladder as well as all the ducts leading from the gallbladder down to the system. That would be how we take a look at the gallbladders, and actually the pancreas one that looks green right now. I'll click on that when we're done and show you how that actually is looking at the duct. I find so many people where it's the ducts leading from the pancreas and the gallbladder down into the small intestine where that's the problem that needs to be focused on. And one more in the thyroid. Okay, so when we take a look at our list, we've got a green one right here. The left eye has no problems, it's all in the green. Double click on it and it goes back out. We have this thyroid, also green, nothing wrong with it, goes back out. Just again to show you on the pancreas, our hepatic duct, our cystic duct, our gallbladder, and then leading down to the duodenum, the papillary duct, the ampulla levator, duodenal papilla. So in other words, here's all our tubes coming from our digestive enzyme secretors down into the small intestine. This is where you see a lot of problems, but in this particular case, not that bad, so we can take care of the pancreas out of there. We're going to take all the blue ones out. Again, even though these may have scores that are slightly out of balance, we really can't spend our time working on those until we get a better idea. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click all the blue ones out. What are we left with? We have organs, blood cells. So as we click on that Y, the macrophage has a 9. Now what is a macrophage? That is one of the original reactions to infection. The macrophage goes out there and tries to kill things in a generic kind of way. Over here, neutrophils are a 1. Now, neutrophils would be those things that are trying to fight bacteria. So that is a deficiency. We need to build the immune system back to the capacity. Now, could this person have an active infection? That we don't know. We're going to find out later. Now, platelets are an 8. Those are the repair factor. Basophils are also an inflammatory score. There's red blood cells that are at a 7. Now, 7 is only 1 mark out of normal, but that's still something to pay attention to. So what we do when we look at these is now we have 3 of these that have scores that are off enough to pay attention to. We want to go frequency optimization. Now, frequency optimization is going to take all of those scores that were out of normal, put them back to the body as something, as an inverted signal to be corrective, to have the ability to take scores that were off their mark, give a chance for vibrational therapy to work. Now, sometimes, again, this is going to work and sometimes it won't. When it does get the scores to get better, what that typically means is that that score was off because of an informational reason why. There was an interruption in the information pathway to the point where then that becomes a challenge with the ability for the body to correctly use it within the metabolic cycle. So from an informational standpoint, we can do a lot of correction in the body. The person will leave the session being in better communication with their own body and theoretically, more healthy than when they originally sat down, just by doing these processes of frequency optimization. All right, so you can see here in our connective tissue, we had a 1 in this ligament that's down here in the hips, but that now turned to a 2. Is the person going to stand up and feel instantly better? No. But this is something where we can say is that we've corrected this enough, it seems like this is not a big deal. So at that point, now that it's blue, we want to double click it and get it out of there. So we're left with our 2 red ones. Now, this is where I'm going to stop this video because we're next going to go into the analyze portion. The analyze is what we do next to say, well, what do we do about the connective tissue of the spine? And what do we do about the blood cells here? This is going to be a little bit of an exploration in the how do we solve this problem kind of thing. But for now, we're going to realize that we've gotten through the basics of the scan and frequency optimization. All right, thanks for listening.